In this video, I want to talk about sensory gating deficits while your partner with ASD can't hear you during mundane tasks. This creates arguments in thousands of neurodiverse relationships, yet almost nobody understands what's actually happening. Have you ever walked into the kitchen and you started talking to your ASD spouse while maybe he was washing dishes and gotten absolutely nothing back? You ask a question, no answer. You repeat yourself, still nothing. Then finally, they turn around looking startled and say, "What?" Or maybe the answer was something that has absolutely nothing to do with what you just said. Now, if you're the neurotypical partner, it can feel deeply personal. You might think, why am I less important than the dishes right now? Or if he can hear the television from another room, why can't he hear me? Or does he even care that I'm talking? Moments like these begin to accumulate, don't they? They don't stay isolated. They become evidence. Evidence that you're not important, evidence that you're invisible, evidence that you're emotionally alone. And that is one of the most painful roads that can eventually lead to Cassandra syndrome. But today, I'd like to offer another possibility. What if your ASD partner wasn't ignoring you? What if, in that moment, their brain literally could not process your voice? Doesn't that sound crazy? Not because they didn't love you, not because they didn't care, but because their nervous system was already operating at full capacity, unlike you, the neurotypical wife, who can cognitively and emotionally multitask. Your ASD spouse doesn't do that. Understanding this distinction can dramatically reduce blame while still acknowledging the very real hurt those moments create. Now let's talk about something called sensory gating. What the hell is that? Okay. Sensory gating is the brain's filtering system. Every second, your senses are bombarded with information. The refrigerator hums, the dishwasher splashes, the dog walks across the floor, the air conditioner cycles on, lights flicker, cars pass outside. Even your own breathing creates sound. Now, if your brain consciously processed every one of those signals equally, you'd become overwhelmed almost instantly. Fortunately, most brains automatically prioritize what's important and suppress what isn't. Think of it like a nightclub. Only certain information gets through the velvet rope. Everything else waits outside. Most neurotypical brains do this effortlessly and unconsciously. The sound of the refrigerator disappears. The ceiling fan sound disappears. The sun coming through the window blinding you disappears. Background conversations fade away. When someone you love speaks your name, your brain immediately elevates that voice above everything else. You don't consciously decide to do it. Your nervous system does it automatically. But for many autistic people, that filtering system works very differently. The brain treats every little piece of incoming information as equally important. Instead of ranking information, everything arrives with nearly the same urgency. Imagine trying to have a meaningful conversation while 10 people are talking directly into your ears at the exact same volume. Now, imagine someone asking why you're not listening carefully enough. This isn't a matter of effort. It's a matter of neurological traffic congestion. Now let's look at an everyday example. Imagine an autistic husband is cooking dinner. The skillet is sizzling, the exhaust fan is running, water is boiling. He's monitoring whether the pasta is finished. He's trying to remember which ingredient comes next. He's making sure the chicken doesn't burn. He's feeling heat from the stove. He's holding a mental checklist of what still needs to happen. Meanwhile, the overhead light feels slightly too bright, or your shirt collar feels too uncomfortable, or the smell of garlic is stronger than most people realize. None of these sensations may be consciously distressing, but every one of them consumes processing power. Now his wife walks into the kitchen and she says, "Can you remember that we're leaving at 6? Also, did you call your mother? And I was thinking we should talk about what happened yesterday." To her, this seems like a perfectly reasonable conversation. Juggling 10 bowling balls at once. No problem. To his nervous system, it's one more stream of information entering an already overloaded processor. His brain doesn't simply hear her voice. It has to separate her voice from the sizzling pan, the fan, the running water, internal planning, sensory awareness, motor coordination, and his anxiety about getting dinner finished. Eventually, something has to give. Often, it's language. He may not respond. He may freeze. He may become irritable. He may say, "Not now." Or he may genuinely not remember hearing any of it. Now, from the outside, this looks like emotional avoidance, doesn't it? Inside his nervous system, it's cognitive saturation. Now, let's use another analogy. Imagine your computer has 50 programs running simultaneously. Now someone asks you to open a massive video editing project. The computer freezes. You wouldn't accuse the computer of being selfish. You'd recognize it has exceeded its processing capacity. And human nervous systems work similarly. When sensory input exceeds neurological bandwidth, communication starts to fail. Now, I want to pause here for a moment because this is incredibly important. Understanding sensory gating is not about excusing hurtful behavior. It's about explaining one piece of what might be happening. If someone consistently refuses to communicate, never repairs misunderstandings, dismisses your feelings, or uses autism as an excuse to avoid responsibility, well, that's a different conversation. Neurology explains limitations. It does not remove responsibility for learning better strategies. Both partners still deserve respect. Both partners still deserve to feel heard. The goal isn't lowering expectations. The goal is creating expectations that fit how each nervous system actually works. Now let's consider another common situation. One partner is vacuuming. The neurotypical spouse begins talking from another room. She gets no response. She walks closer, says it again. Still no response. Finally, she gets frustrated. I've said your name 3 times. From her perspective, he's choosing not to answer. From his perspective, he had absolutely no awareness that anyone was even speaking. It's not that the vacuum cleaner is just too loud. It's that his nervous system allocated nearly all available processing towards managing the sensory experience and motor coordination. As crazy as this sounds, there simply wasn't enough bandwidth remaining for speech recognition. Again, it's not emotional rejection, it's neurological overload. So what are you supposed to do with this? Okay, well, the first strategy is simple. Avoid starting important conversations while the autistic partner is engaged in high-demand sensory tasks. For example, cooking, vacuuming, using power tools, driving, folding laundry while multiple children are talking. Any activity requiring sustained attention may dramatically reduce communication capacity. Second, gain attention before speaking. Don't begin with a long explanation. Instead, say their name. Then pause. Wait for eye contact if that's comfortable for them, or wait until they verbally acknowledge your presence. Only then begin the conversation. That brief pause allows his nervous system to shift attention. Third, recognize transition time. Many autistic adults don't instantly switch from one cognitive task to another. Task switching itself requires energy. So instead of asking, why aren't you listening? Try asking, when you're finished doing that, I'd like to tell you something important. Now the autistic brain can prepare, and preparation often reduces overload. Fourth, agree on communication signals. Some couples create simple phrases like, I want your full attention, or this can wait, or I need you to know. These signals help distinguish between routine conversation and emotionally important moments. Fifth, for the autistic partner, practice becoming aware of your own cognitive saturation. Most autistic adults don't realize they're overloaded until after they've become irritable or shut down. You can ask yourself throughout the day, how much sensory information am I processing right now? How mentally full am I? How would I actually be able to absorb a conversation at this moment? That kind of self-awareness can prevent countless misunderstandings. And for the neurotypical partner, here's something equally important. Your emotional experience is still real. Even if your partner couldn't process your words, you still experienced loneliness. You still experienced disconnection. Understanding the neurology doesn't erase those feelings, but it may prevent you from drawing painful conclusions about your worth. That's an enormous difference between he doesn't care about me and his nervous system couldn't process me at that moment. Those two interpretations lead relationships down very different paths. One creates resentment, the other creates curiosity, and curiosity is often the beginning of compassion. Healthy, neurodiverse relationships are rarely built on perfect communication. They're built on accurate interpretations. The more accurately each partner understands what's happening inside the other's nervous system, the less likely they are to personalize neurological differences, and that's where healing begins. Now, if today's video helped you understand sensory gating in a new way, I'd encourage you to share it with your partner. Sometimes one shared understanding can prevent years of unnecessary conflict. And if you've experienced this in your own relationship, either as the autistic partner who genuinely couldn't process conversation during everyday tasks, or as the neurotypical partner who felt painfully ignored, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. Your story may help another couple realize they're not alone. I will read and respond to your comment. So until next time, remember this. Not every communication failure is a failure of love. Sometimes it's a nervous system doing the best it can with the information it's trying to process. And when we understand this difference, we stop fighting each other and start solving the problem together. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule. You'll get a follow-up email immediately after purchasing a session that will have the Zoom link that coincides with the day and time that you picked. I will get an email too that you scheduled a session, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk. I look forward to working with you.